But, there's other things in motherhood too that just are difficult and hard. And I think as moms, we kind of just like want a solution. We like go to Facebook groups or we go to women in our church. We ask for lots of advice, which is great. It's great to get advice and to have support.
Welcome to the Happy Home Birth Podcast, your source for positive natural childbirth stories and your community of support, education, and encouragement in all things home birth and motherhood. When a midwife gives birth to her first baby, she'll know exactly what to expect, right? Hey there, happy home birthers, and welcome to episode 275 of the Happy Home Birth Podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin Fusco, and this week we are speaking with Leigha Fairchild, a midwife who serves mamas and families in the Kansas City area. She became a midwife while living in the Philippines and serving at a low-resource birth center for 2.5 years. Yet, her even greater role is that of wife to her husband, Corey, and mother to her 3 beautiful children, with another one on the way. Now, today we will be diving into Leigha's experience of becoming a mother after having been a midwife for several years. And guess what? Leigha is not only an incredible mother and midwife, but she is also a member of Samaritan Ministries. Now, this totally makes sense to me because Leigha embodies so many of the qualities that drew me to Samaritan in the first place. She owns her own business and is therefore thoughtful about where her finances are going. Samaritan has been a wonderful healthcare sharing option for myself as a small business owner. Leigha loves Jesus, and as a Christ follower, she recognizes the importance of supporting others in their times of need. This is the heart of Samaritan Ministries. How incredible is that? No wonder tens of thousands of families are trusting Samaritan Ministries for their healthcare sharing needs, myself and Leigha included. Now, if you want to know more about Samaritan Ministries, I've made this very easy for you. There is a link in the show notes that you can click. Fill out that information, and a member of the Samaritan team will reach out to you with more information. And as an added bonus from me, you will be receiving the first module of my Happy Home Birth Academy for free. Okay, let's jump into this week's episode. Please remember that the opinions of my guest may not necessarily reflect my own and vice versa. And this show is not medical advice, it's an educational tool, so continue to take empowered responsibility for your health and your family. Leigha, thank you so much for coming on the Happy Home Birth Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I am so excited to have you. This is going to be an incredible story. And I just love being able to just bring these different stories on. Things happen differently for every single person, and our backgrounds are all different, our experiences. So I'm really excited to jump into yours. Would you mind just starting us off by giving a quick introduction to yourself and your family?
Yes. So I actually, before I met my husband and, became the one to plan a home birth myself, I became a midwife. So I actually moved to the Philippines for 2.5 years and did a training program there, came back to the States. My sister lived in the Kansas City area, and there's quite a number of midwives in KC. So I started working with a couple midwives to finish up the last requirements for births, and then graduated, started, just attending as a certified midwife. And then I met my husband in 2020. So that was actually a really good year for me.
I don't know about all y'all, but it was great for me.
Like everyone else had a hard time, I had a great time. And then we got married in February 2021 and then got pregnant very quickly. So our first daughter was born in December 2021. Then we had a surprise baby in March of 2022 that we adopted. And yeah, we didn't get pregnant then. She was born then. So she was born 3 months after our firstborn.
Wow.
And then our son was born in 2023 in the summer, and we're about to have baby number 4.
That is so exciting. Wow. Wow. Okay. So this is amazing. Did you always know that you wanted to be a midwife, or when did that idea come to you?
Yeah. So I feel a little bad because this was my sister's idea. And then I'm the one that became a midwife. But she's doing great things. She's a mom to 6, and she's had all her babies at home. And she she's the one who chose to have a home birth, and my parents were just like, "You're crazy. Why are you doing this?" And I didn't know really enough. I was like 16 at the time, so I was like, "Okay. I mean, that's just what she wants to do. That's different than anything I've ever heard before, but that's interesting." And my next several years, I graduated high school. I went through a missions ministry training, and while I was there, I just started thinking, it would be really great to have some kind of like skill or tool to use overseas. And the idea of midwifery kind of just came about. My sister was also pregnant with her second baby, so there was like that aspect of just midwifery and home birth. And I thought, well, women all over the world have babies, so that seems like something you could use anywhere.
Yeah.
So then I found out about that program that's in the Philippines and just decided, well, I don't know if I'm like smart enough for this. I don't know if I can handle like all the different aspects of being a midwife. I don't know if I'm going to be like weak at the sight of blood, but I'll just move thousands of miles from home and hope it works out. So, and it did. It worked out great. It was a great experience. I learned so much. And then coming back, I think just it was very different coming back to the US where, everyone's doing home birth versus like being in a birth center where the moms gave births on like beds just like 6 feet apart, with like a curtain in between their
Right.
beds. So it was a very different experience, but babies come out the same way. Even if the ambiance is a little
Yeah.
different.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a great experience, and I was really grateful to be able to train there. And when you like learn in a low resource setting, then you can kind of come back and add in more of the like, whether it's like the ambiance or just all the like comfort measures and having a doula and some of those things. It's like easier to add those things in when you started with like pretty basic, not much extra support.
That's a great point. That I mean that really you're seeing kind of like birth just like on its own,
Yeah.
there's not the comforts per se, and seeing like okay, and it still does work this
Yeah.
way, and then being able to come home to apply that and provide comfort and support. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really neat, Leah. And I think that's so cool that, it was your sister had the idea, but then you were able to use that. You wouldn't have known about any of this had it not been for her. So what a trailblazer
Yeah.
your sister is. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I think she had me sit down and watch The Business of Being Born with her when she was pregnant that first time. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in. I'm
I'm in.
in.
I'm in it. Actually, I'm moving. I've booked a flight. Gonna become a midwife. Perfect. Thank you. Wow, that's amazing. So, okay, so you became a midwife, you began practicing. This is before you met your husband, got
Yeah.
married, got pregnant. So, what was that practicing time like? And then I don't know, the idea of going from being a midwife, having seen all of these births to becoming pregnant yourself, what did that feel like?
So the experience, like right after I took the board exam and became certified, was fantastic. Really, the Lord just like moved things around for me to get in with these midwives at a birth center. It was these two nurse midwives, and then there's one other CPM. And then I just called them one day because I was like, hey, I'm about to be certified. I don't really know other midwives in the area. This is like an hour outside of Kansas City, so I was trying to make connections, and they were the only ones really that were out there, and that's where I grew up. So I wanted to like be there, and so they invited me to just come talk to them for like an hour. Mostly we just shared like birth stories and chatted for an hour, and then at the end they're like, well, if you'd like a job, we'd love to have you come work with us.
Wow.
And so it was really just like the Lord like working that all out. And then I was nervous. I was like, well, I hope I pass this test because I'm like supposed to start this job and I haven't even taken the test yet. Thankfully that worked out too. But they were just, I hear stories of like some dynamics where the new midwife is maybe treated like she doesn't really know that much, or just maybe not treated as nice as they could be. but I had such a great experience. There was just so much like mutual respect and just like idea sharing. And if we were like caring for someone prenatally or through a birth, it was a lot of back and forth of like, well, what are you thinking? How do you think that we could best care for her? Like, do you have ideas that maybe I'm not thinking of? And because it was like nurse midwives and CPMs, it was cool to see the different strengths between both. And so we both did learn a lot from each other. So that was great. I mean, sometimes we were so busy. There was like probably averaging like 10 births a month. And we did most of them at the birth center, but then we had a handful of home births as well if people just wanted to be at home. And so I stayed very busy, but it was great. I mean, I didn't have much other I was single. I didn't have much other responsibility. And so it was a great experience. I loved it. There's just so many births that, yeah, so special to be a part of. You know, it's hard to even like remember them all sometimes, but I would write down, you know, in a journal every birth to try and remember something special that happened or how it went or what the mom said. And so it was great. I loved it. And then I was sad to leave, but I left whenever I moved to Kansas City to get married. So
Gotcha. That
yeah,
makes sense. Now, it's interesting. Something that you just mentioned reminds me of my midwife and friend. She actually writes a haiku after every birth that she
that's
attends.
amazing.
Yes, and so they're actually publishing it as a book. I
Oh,
don't know when the date is, but it's already in publishing, like, it's happened. They received a grant to publish it.
wow.
So, shout out, you guys. I will for sure be I'll be talking about it as soon as it's published. But
Yeah.
how special, like, just a special form of, reverence and honoring the birth, honoring the mothers, and to be able to have a creative outlet as a
Yeah.
midwife as well. So neat. That's really neat that you kept a journal.
Yeah. I mean, I still do, but it's a little
Yeah.
less detailed now
Right.
because don't have quite as
Fair.
much time.
Yep. I get that. Okay, so you moved to Kansas City. You and your husband get married, and then you become pregnant quickly after. Let's
Yes.
hear about that pregnancy.
So my husband and I got married, and like leading up to it, and then when we first got married, I was like, so are we gonna like just like try to get pregnant or try not to get pregnant and wait? And maybe he remembers it differently. So I'll just grant him that. But I just remember him being like, well, I don't really know. And so if you're not really doing anything, then you can get pregnant very easily, depending on who
Apparently.
you are. But
Yeah.
for us, it was very easy. And um, so we got pregnant right away. We had like, I think there was 5 of us at my church who had due dates like 1 month right after the other, all 5 of us. And, you know, it was kind of fun because I think we were all first time moms. So kind of everyone just walking through the experience at the same time. And so that was just really fun. But then I was doing a few births still, just like home births, private practice. And through the course of my pregnancy, just had some harder births. I think that there was 4 home births that I did through that. And one was like so smooth, straightforward, like everything just went, perfectly. And then one was my sister, actually. She had a baby a few months before we had our first. And I mean, her birth was great. She did have a home birth, but it was a little bit of a harder just birth and labor for her. And then I had one mom who she decided to transfer to the hospital. And then I had one mom who ended up going to the hospital and having a C-section. So it was like kind of a wide variety of birth experiences. And I think like through the course of my pregnancy, it just kind of made me think through like, okay, what if this happens or what if this happens? And I like so deeply wanted that birth experience that I saw so many moms have, where, the whole home birth experience and getting to have your baby and be in your own home and then getting to get into your own bed and have your baby with you, be with your husband. And so thinking like, okay, well, there's things that are outside of our control. And I know that because I've seen so many different experiences. And then like being pregnant and seeing some of those things also happen was like, what if that is me? Like, what if I have to be the one that has to transfer to the hospital and I have to be the one who ends up getting a C-section? And I, like, in my mind, that was like the worst. I just absolutely did not want that in any way. And everything about it was like bad. It's like, absolutely not. So that was really difficult for me, but it was a good process of just like continually surrendering to the Lord my fears about it, and also just accepting that if that is the way that it goes, and I hope it's not, I'm going to do everything I can so it's not, but if that's the way it goes and there's there's circumstances outside of my control, I just want to be grateful to the Lord for the baby that he gave us, no matter what way she comes into the world.
Wow. I think that there is something just very potent about being pregnant as a midwife or as someone attending births. There's a lot of extra processing, I feel like, that has to happen when that is the case, because it is so easy to apply every single thing that happens to yourself.
Yeah.
And, that realization of, okay, this is not my story. My story is different. I don't know what my story is going to be exactly, but, I don't have to try this on. I don't have to put this on and say this is what's going to happen to me. To be able to be with these people, to comfort them, to support them in the best way that you know how, and also not to put that onto yourself is, I mean, that's a challenge.
Yeah, it was hard.
Mhm.
There were some tears through that
Yeah.
process. Yeah.
Yeah, I will believe that. Believe that for sure. So, okay, so you're going through this as a midwife, you're taking care of a few families, and you are seeking care where?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I was in the Philippines, I went to school with, I think there was like 10 other people in my class, and then there's a couple other classes, and the way that we did like housing was there's three main houses that we rented, and so we were all kind of mixed. It wasn't like just your classmates, it was the different classmates. So the person who was my midwife was actually one of my classmates. And then I had another friend who was also a classmate who lived like 4 hours away. And so I was like, okay, well, you can come down for the birth and like be a birth assistant. And then, this other gal will be my midwife. So it was pretty like, uh, I don't know if standard or routine is the right word, but pretty similar to like what most people will experience if they hire a home birth midwife. Like I did all the prenatal care at the same times. And I don't remember how involved my husband was. Like I know he was there sometimes, but he also just didn't have a ton of questions. And so I think he was just like, all right, as long as the baby's good to go, then sounds good. And he wasn't, I don't know that he was anxious. He never really made it seem like he was anxious about home birth because he married a midwife. So I think he kind of just was like, well, if we're going to get married, then you're probably just going to want to have your babies at home. So
Right. It's like you kind of signed up for this.
like he kind of just was like, okay, that's obviously what's going to happen.
Oh man. Okay, so in terms of that pregnancy, how did it feel? Was it like, "Oh wow, this is super simple. I love being pregnant," or was it a difficult one?
Well, I got really lucky uh, because I just didn't have any morning sickness.
Wow, that is beautiful.
So I keep that on the down low most of the time because that's really been my experience with all my pregnancies.
Mm.
And those early weeks, everyone's like, "How are you doing? Are you doing okay?" It's like, I'm actually doing really good. So I mean, honestly, the biggest thing is like the exhaustion, which has happened like every pregnancy for me. But when I just was pregnant with my first, I could actually just sleep if I wanted to sleep. So I remember sleeping a lot with
I
her.
remember. I remember those days.
Very different experience than when you
Yes.
have kids later on. But yeah, I just remember just being really tired a lot. And then, kind of classic, like second trimester, a lot more energy. And then third trimester, it was fine. I mean, I got uncomfortable. There's a baby in me. So She was getting bigger. And then I did have like a lot of swelling, which was not really related. I mean, I didn't have high blood pressure or anything else. It was just like massive swelling, gained a ton of weight. I think I lost like 30 pounds within 2 days of giving birth. And I mean,
Woo!
some of it was her. She was almost 9 pounds.
Right.
And then, of course, like, amniotic fluid and placenta, but a lot of it was water weight because, 2 days later, I'm like, oh, wow, I have ankles again.
Yay! My
Yeah.
ankles are back.
Yeah. Like, oh, there you are. I didn't know if you were coming back.
Oh man. Okay. So everything was good. It was a good pregnancy. Just
Yes.
we had some swelling, had
Yeah.
some fluid retention.
Honestly, it's like not much to complain about because, I know a lot of people have dealt with a lot more difficult pregnancies.
Mhm.
So,
Well, as you got towards the end of that pregnancy, what was the end of your pregnancy and then kind of like beginning into labor, starting labor? What was that like?
yeah, I tell moms all the time when they're having their first baby to just expect to go past their due date. So, I told myself that. But then I think it was on my due date or maybe right before, I saw my friend for this prenatal visit and realized at that visit that she was not comfortable going past 42 weeks.
Oh.
So I mean, I was just 40. I think it was on my due date. But I did not know that the whole entire course of my pregnancy. And I personally was fine with going past as long as, baby seemed good. I didn't want the stress or pressure to like feel like I had to do something or like make something happen. And so then I found that out at like my 40-week appointment and kind of went home in like a panic mode of just like, well, what am I going to do? Like, and then if she's just going to not be comfortable with that, like, I don't want to go to the hospital. And so I called my other midwife friend who was going to drive down 4 hours. And she's like, listen, you have so many days between now and then. Don't worry about it right now. You can like figure it out if you get there. You don't have to worry about it right now. But I mean, that was very helpful. But of course, it's hard to just like put it out of your mind completely because you're like, okay, but this was my whole plan. And then if you're not comfortable with me going past 42, then what do I do? Like,
Mhm.
just do it on my own, try to find someone else. Just feels very late in the game to be like doing any of that. Um, but then, like, I think I was 5 days past my due date, so really not that far at all. I went into labor.
So we
So
didn't have to worry about it.
I really didn't have to worry about it, but I did feel the worry
But I
about
did.
it.
But I did worry about it for the record.
It's like I'll try to put this out of my mind, but it's very hard to. So yeah, now I'm like, well, I would recommend to anyone who's hiring a midwife, maybe just ask that question
Yeah.
early on. That would be
Yes.
helpful for you to know one way or the other.
Oh man, I think that there is so much benefit in, you know, thinking through like every like what are the questions I can ask? Like being as detailed as possible. Be annoying. It's better to be annoying and
Yes.
know what you're getting into than to be like surprised on the other side. So
Yes.
I also think it's really cute that this is coming from a midwife who
Like, ask the questions, don't assume. I think
yeah,
that was it. It was like easy to assume that because I'm comfortable with it that she would also be comfortable with it.
right.
And I just didn't I just didn't ask because I kind of just assumed. But when we hired our midwives for our second birth, that was like the only question I had. I was like, so how do you feel about going past 42 weeks? I was like, all right, other than that, I think we're good.
Okay, golden, perfect. Fabulous.
So yeah.
Okay, so 40 and 5-ish is when
Yes.
this is happening.
Yes. And so it was a Sunday morning and, I love going to church. Wasn't that excited about going 5 days past my due date. But, I was like, what else is the day going to hold if we don't go? So we got up just like normal and we went. And at some point I realized while we were sitting through the service, like, I think I'm having contractions. Like, I think that these are more than just Braxton Hicks, you know? I don't really think they hurt, but they're just more noticeable. I was like, I don't know if like, I'm not timing them, but they seem to just keep coming. So I just didn't want to talk to anyone after church. So I was like, what if we just go home now? Like right before the service is actually over. What if we just sneak out? And so my husband was like, okay, we can go. We both had like a horrible stomach bug a few days before, and he was on the tail end of it. I was like over it, thankfully, but he was still kind of on the tail end of it. So he was like, yeah, I don't feel that great either, so let's just go ahead and go. So we like snuck out, and of course, that's kind of a scene because everyone's like, what are they doing? Where are
Where's
they
she
going?
going?
What's happening? And someone did follow us out, and they're like, hey, are you okay? I was like, yeah, we're just gonna go home. And I didn't say anything else. I was just like, yep, everything's great. We're gonna go home now.
Yes, bye.
So we just went home, and then I was like, okay, got to do all the things that we always recommend to first time moms. So got to try to rest, eat something, take a nap this afternoon in case things like really pick up tonight. So there's definitely like a sense of excitement, but also trying to play it cool, just like let it happen, not try to get too excited if it wasn't going to be like the real thing yet. So I woke up from a nap at like 4 p.m. and then nothing was happening. So I was sad, but also just like, okay, it's going to be soon. This is okay, even if it's not happening right now. So we had dinner together, and it was like December. So it was like time to watch a Christmas movie before we go to bed. So we watched Elf, which is
Perfect.
like just great, hilarious, great movie. And, I started like having them again. So it's like, okay, I think what we should do is just go to bed early, because if this is really going to happen, gotta try to sleep. So we went upstairs, started getting ready for bed, and then I think it was like 9 p.m. We laid down, and I kid you not, it was like lights out, laying down in the bed, and then it was just like someone flipped a switch, and then it was like contraction, contraction, contraction. And I was like, I cannot lay here like this. And so my husband, he's very chill and just not that worried. And he's heard me like talk about birth so much, especially like if it was a first time mom, what would we tell her? So he's like, just try to get some sleep. I'm like, it's not happening. This is not going to happen. So he's like, okay, well, you should just go like get in the bathtub, just sit in the bathtub. So I was like, okay. So he just like goes to bed.
Okay,
So
good
I'm like,
night.
okay, I'm going to go get in the bathtub. So I like got in, and I think I was like, okay, I got to see how close together these are. Like every 3 minutes, they were just like 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes. And of course I like could not get comfortable in this bathtub because it was tiny and hard. And so every time I had a contraction, I'd go from like laying back to just like flipping around, like holding on to the side and leaning over it. And so I don't really remember how long I did that, but I was like, what was that? I like felt something, and I was like, what was that? And, and then I was like, did my water just break? Because I just like, I don't know how to describe it. I don't want to be gross either, but you just like, something's coming out, and that's what
Mhm.
it feels like, is
Mhm.
something's coming out. And but I was in the bathtub still, so it was like mixed with just water. So I'm like, was that just like some weird feeling, or was that
Mhm.
like water breaking? And so I like called my husband, and he must not have been sleeping that deeply because he did come right in. And I was like, I don't know. I think I just got to get out of this bathtub. This is terribly uncomfortable. I don't like this at all. And so I got up, and at that point called my sister, because she was essentially my doula, to come and help me. And then I was like, I guess we should let our midwife know that happened. And So my sister actually ended up on the phone with her, and she was like telling her that, oh, she thinks her water broke and this is what her contractions are like. And yeah, they just stayed like every 3 minutes, lasting like probably a minute. And my midwife was like, okay, well, you have one of those like swabs to test if it's amniotic fluid. So why don't you just do that? Meanwhile, I was like sitting on my bed on like a Chuck's pad, literally just like soaking through the whole thing.
Uh, it's amniotic fluid.
And so my sister's like, so where's that swab? And I'm like trying to think straight, and I can't really, but like trying to think straight and tell her where it is. And then I'm like, wait, I do not need that swab. This is 100% amniotic fluid. And it's like gushing at this point. So I think we can be pretty confident that that's what is happening. So yeah, it was just like kind of comical, but my husband's also like not great with body fluids. And so he was like, okay, can we just like do something about that? So then I got to wear a diaper like the rest of the labor. Very attractive. um, and the funny thing that happened was I had a friend, she had just had a baby in October, and just like the day she went into labor, invited me over and said, okay, are you doing anything tonight? You'll come with me to the hospital to have this baby. So that had like, just happened a little over a month ago, I think. And so she started texting my husband because I didn't tell her I was in labor, but somehow she found out. She was texting my husband, and I was like, okay, my labor just started. These are really close together, but I just think I have a long way to go. Like, I don't think we're that close because it just started. And so she was like, is your midwife there yet? Did you call the midwife? Did you get your midwife there? Please, will you please get your midwife there? And so eventually my husband just told her, yep, the midwife's here.
And you are like, Leigha is here. She is a midwife.
And then she was like, I'm sorry, I would come, but like my husband's not home and I have to be with my kids. And I was like, well, you weren't invited. So so
No
that's
problem.
fine. You can stay home with your kids. That's fine.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, don't. I'm glad it became a non-issue, but I was like, I
Yes.
don't know what I would say if she's like, I'm coming to help you.
You
But
were an angel. Help me from afar.
yes, like okay. But yeah, so that was probably like 4 o'clock in the morning by the time that my husband just like told her that, yep, they're here, even though they were not there.
So she's texting you through the night.
Yes, yes. We did eventually call the midwives because, it was like, this is definitely labor. Obviously, like, water's broken, contractions are close together. I just, like, never really felt the intensity change. And I think that's the thing that just was, like, so confusing, is because whenever we were, like, helping like teach childbirth education class or like help moms prepare for labor, it was like, well, it starts out like easy far apart contractions, and then they'll get closer together and the intensity will get stronger and stronger, and then when you're in transition, it's really hard and you feel like you can't do it, and then you push the baby out. And for me, like the whole time, the intensity just felt like the same the whole entire time. And like they were 3 minutes apart most of the time. I think there were probably periods where they maybe spaced out a little just from being tired, but like they really were just kind of consistent, continual, all day long. And so I didn't have any kind of idea, even though like I'd seen so many people do it. I just had no concept for like, how close are we? Like, is this going to be another like day or is it going to be just a few hours? Or like, how much longer do I have to do this? Because it's just really hard. And I know it's not going to last forever, but it would be helpful to know how much longer it's actually going to be. And then I think that was when my midwives were like, okay, well, you should walk the stairs. So I have some great pictures of just like the deepest frown of my entire life, like walking up the stairs, just like, like I'm doing this because I know it's good, but there's nothing in me that actually wants to be doing this right now.
But I am angry about it. I'm very disappointed in all of you.
It's like just yeah, deep frown. And like that's so those are the kind of like birth photography pictures I have. I mean, they're just like iPhone pictures, in a diaper, frowning, walking up the stairs. And then I personally like felt nauseous the whole time, so I didn't want to eat. And so they were like, "You really should eat. You really should eat something." I mean, it was like noon the next day, so they're like, "You've been up all night. You should really eat something." And so I think I ate like two nuts and like a piece of cheese, and I was like, "See, I just ate. I did so good eating that for you." So, I mean, I guess they were pleased. I don't know.
Should have been.
I was like, that was a lot. That took a lot of effort out of me. So, yeah, and then I have this like distinct memory. Of course, time was like completely meaningless through all of it. And like I said, it didn't really like increase in intensity either. But I had this memory of like walking in my hall, just like back and forth after eating my nuts and cheese and just thinking like, man, this is just kind of hard and not that fun, not that fun. And like, well, what could I do about it? And it was just like in my mind, I knew like, well, going to the hospital doesn't really make this any better. Like that also doesn't sound good either. So I guess we'll just keep doing this for however long it takes. And hopefully eventually she's just going to come out because this feels like it's taking a very long time. And the midwives that I had, they're very supportive, but like in hindsight, I'm like, did they feel like it was a long time? Like, did they feel like they were there for a while? Cause I think they got there at like 8 a.m. And that had already been like almost 12 hours from when it started, from when I like laid down in my bed.
Wow.
And so I was like, I don't know what they're thinking exactly, but my baby is fine. She's safe. She's healthy. This is happening. It just keeps happening over and over again. And so we'll just see this through to the end. And I think that was when I checked myself and I was like, okay, if I can feel her head, then I at least know, like, even if I don't know how like dilated I am, that her head is coming. And I could feel her head. And so I was like, okay, well, it must be kind of close now because I mean, I can definitely feel her head. Uh, and so then after that, I got into my bed and just completely passed out. I've seen moms like completely pass out in their labor between contractions and thought to myself, like, how can they possibly be sleeping right now? Because these contractions are so intense. But that's exactly what happened. I just like fell asleep and then it would just like wake me up and I would just like have the contraction and then just right back to sleep. And so I wasn't definitely not in my like thinking midwife brain. It was just like in hindsight that I was like, oh, that was probably transition. Like that was probably just like that point of getting the last little rest before pushing. And sure enough, right after that, my midwife was saying like, just don't be afraid of the contractions and just let it happen. And I didn't really like verbalize a whole lot, but I was like, I'm not afraid of it. I can't make anything happen that's not happening. So I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what that means, but yep, when the baby's ready to come out, they'll come out, guaranteed. It's like, I'm not scared. Don't worry. I'm just like ready for this to happen.
I can't conjure this though. Like,
And so then my other midwife friend, she is really sweet. And then she's like, I'm just going to pray for you. And then I think she read me Psalm 38. I don't even remember all of it right now, but she just read it to me. And I mean, of course, it's like trusting in the Lord for, his timing and his strength. And then as soon as she finished reading it, I was like, oh, okay, I have to push.
Wow.
And so it was just kind of immediate. It was kind of crazy. So that's why I'm like, well, maybe they were a little bit worried. Like maybe they were thinking like, is this progressing?
Mm.
And so they were saying like, don't be afraid of it. Let's pray for you. And then sure enough, there came the baby. Then I got the privilege of pushing for 2.5 hours.
Mm. Woo.
Which was hard, but also it's just so timeless, like you're just in it. Like all of my labor really was that way, but you're just in it. And I knew based on how I felt, like, yeah, this is happening. I can tell she's moving, but just like the tiniest little bit every time. And then she came out. And then in hindsight, I was like, wow, that was 2.5 hours. That didn't feel like 2.5 hours. But sure enough, it was.
Wow.
And then she came out, and I mean, I think every mom can just, think to when their baby was on their chest for the first time and, remember all those feelings and emotions, but just like overwhelming gratitude to God. And also just like so thankful it was finally over that like she was there and that we did it and that we were home. We didn't have to go to the hospital, and like everything just went. I mean, it was long and it was a hard labor, but really it just went so smoothly. And I was just so thankful that she was there. So she was born at 5:40 p.m.
Oh, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had her in the water, and then we like got out and got to my bed, and it was just like, this is what I was thinking I wanted, of just being in my own bed with my baby and my husband. And I was just so thankful, so happy, and also so exhausted.
I can imagine. I can imagine that those 2 nuts and the cheese slice probably had worn off at that point.
Yeah, I think we were out of the nuts at that point.
Oh, man. Oh, wow. Okay, so, I mean, yeah, that was what's interesting about it is how there didn't seem to be a lot of buildup. It was
Yeah,
like, all right, so labor begins, and it's like kind of active labor the whole way
yeah,
through.
yeah.
Whew, so kind of active labor for, just under 24 hours is a long time.
It really is. And like in my mind, it's like, oh, we tell people in early labor, like, oh, keep your mind off of it. Just set up your birth supplies and your birth space and like make everything the way you want it. And so I was like waiting for that early labor part to like set everything up. And then I was like,
You
can't do that.
I'm in it.
So there's not going to be any ambiance. There's not going to be twinkle lights or anything. I'm just going to wear this diaper, and that's how it's going to be.
It's just wow. I mean, it really is. It really is incredible. Um, gosh, and really like for you as a midwife, what a special thing to experience that did allow you this new perspective, this fresh perspective on like, wow, like I have seen all of these births and yet it was not what I expected. Like
Yeah,
there's so much individuality. Isn't that crazy?
it's just wild. But then now it's like, oh, your labor started immediately with like 4 minutes apart, lasting a minute. All the things you tell people. Call me when it gets to this point. It's so confusing as a mom to be like,
Mm.
all right, this app is saying go to the hospital, go to the hospital, go to the hospital. But when do I actually do that?
Mm, yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. So after having had that experience, how do you feel like your birth impacted your mothering? Like how do you feel like
Mm.
that experience was like trajectory for your motherhood?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it was so much endurance, right? Like it just was just, let's just keep going. Let's just keep going through this, because that's how we're going to get to the other side. And I think recognizing too, like, nobody and nothing can really like save me from this, like the only way to get to the other side is to just continue going through it.
Mhm.
And of course in labor that just felt so incredibly challenging. But I think even in motherhood, which I mean, we ended up adopting and our girls are 3 months apart. And there was a lot of endurance that was needed for having two infants in your house and trying to take care of both of their needs. And you just go through it. You're just like, okay, we're just gonna keep going, even when it feels like really hard. And how do you even keep doing this? And then yeah, and at least in terms of like the baby stage for them, we're on the other side now. That is very nice. But you know, there's other things in motherhood too that just are difficult and hard. And I think as moms, we kind of just like want a solution. We like go to Facebook groups or we go to women in our church. We ask for lots of advice, which is great. It's great to get advice and to have support, but realizing that like at the end of the day, nobody can tell you exactly what your kids need and nobody can tell you like what the solution is. Like you just have to be the one to like go through it and go through the hard parts of it and like learn and figure out, okay, this is what my children need from me and I can give that to them. And at the end of the day, at least what I found is like it's not cookie cutter. It's not exactly like what anyone else did. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be exactly like what someone else is doing either. And that's what makes me their mom and someone else, you know, the mom to another child that the Lord has given them. But especially early on in mothering, you know, you're just like, I want someone to just give me all the answers so that I can be a really good mom.
Mhm.
But it's just so much more complex and individualized than someone being able to give you a book of answers, which is
Wow.
why there isn't one. There is not a
Mhm.
book of
Oh,
answers.
Leah. And it makes me think back to in your labor when you're like, I just want to know how long I've got. Like
Yeah.
just tell me if you could just tell me how long I had, I could really wrap my mind around this
Yes.
scenario.
Yes.
And yeah, and it's like, "No, sorry." Like,
Yep.
"Sorry, don't have that for you." But,
Yep.
wow, this experience that is so, like, incredibly empowering and that is going to translate over to motherhood. When you
Yep.
do not have all the answers, you don't know how long this certain situation or scenario is going to last or what it's gonna be like, and yet you have that to look back and reflect on of, "Oh, I had this experience and I didn't know. And yet I was able to get through it and get to the other side. And if I did it then, I can do it right now too."
Yeah. And the Lord just supplies you the strength that you need in the moment.
Mm.
I mean, that's in like birth, but also in mothering too, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like I didn't know how long my labor was going to last and none of us do. Like you could have a really short labor and it could just be the most intense thing you've ever experienced and you have to rely on the strength of the Lord just as much as if you have to go on for 24 hours.
Yes.
And he gives it to you when you need it, not like before you need it.
Wow. Wow, Leah. Man, as you are now in your third pregnancy and about to have your fourth baby, how are you kind of taking all that you've experienced and applying it this time around? Is there any advice or wisdom that you would want to share with the listeners about this most recent experience you're coming up on?
Yeah, well, it's the, you know, every time you're just like, how is it going to go? What's going to happen? And like, is it going to be short or long or difficult or really smooth? And you just don't know. So again, it really is just like trusting the Lord with all that he's going to do with the timing of it all. This time I don't necessarily have like traditional midwifery care. So that's looked really different. My friend who lives 4 hours away is actually planning to come down again. And the midwife friend that I work with, we just started working together in the last year, but she is actually pregnant and due with her baby the same day.
Perfect. Perfect.
So she would like to be there, but there's really no telling if she will or not. And and also my prenatals have been like, hey, maybe you could just check my blood pressure and like listen to my baby every once in a while. So it's been very different. I think like just being a midwife, but then also having like had 2 other home births, I'm just like, the baby's gonna do what the baby needs to do. God's gonna grow them, and they're gonna come out at the time that He decides. And so I can focus my attention on all the other things that I have going on. And then when the baby gets here, we will, you know, uh, t- face that challenge of
Mhm.
labor when it comes. And yeah, my kids are so excited. They just
Aw.
cannot wait. They ask every day, Mom, where's the baby? Still in my belly. So they know it's coming, and they don't really have a lot of concept for when that's going to happen, but neither do I.
Right.
So
Oh.
so we're all waiting
Oh.
together to see when it happens. It's like, yeah, I woke up this morning too and thought, where's the baby?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Gosh, Leah. Well, as this is coming up, I am just showering you with blessings and
Oh,
love. And I'm so excited to hear how this birth unfolds for you. I cannot wait. I know it's just going to be such a beautiful new gift. And this story, the way that you shared all of this from the perspective of someone who has been in the midwifery world and then is coming into motherhood, just so beautiful, so much insight. This has been an absolute honor. Leah, thank you so much for coming on the Happy Home Birth podcast.
thank you so much for having me.
What a powerful episode. Let's go ahead and jump into this week's educational tidbit segment. So, let's talk about the science of ambiance. And yeah, I said science. In this episode, we heard about a mother whose labor flipped on the moment the lights flipped off. This was no coincidence. I love using the example of your family's cat. If you've ever had a pregnant cat on the precipice of labor, did she just pop into the middle of the kitchen during dinner time and birth her kittens? Or did she become secretive? Did she disappear under the deck or into the closet to give birth to her babies? Mothers were not that different. The hormones of labor can be influenced, good or bad, by our surroundings. How many times have we heard the story of the mother on the precipice of birth who arrives at the hospital and the whole thing stalls? Now, here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying you need to fill your Amazon cart with twinkle lights, affirmation cards, and a white birth pool to have a good labor, though I am all for it if that's what you'd like. I am saying that simple things like turning off the lights, playing some quiet background music, putting a soft blanket around your shoulders, these things can influence your labor hormones for the better. The science of ambiance and practical ways to prepare your space for labor and birth are discussed thoroughly inside of Happy Home Birth Academy. If you're ready to prepare thoroughly with home birth focused childbirth education, click the link in the show notes to start today. All right, let's jump into this week's episode roundup. Number 1, ask your questions of your care provider up front. Don't get taken off guard when you realize there are issues at 40 weeks. If you feel like you don't know what questions are important to ask, I believe that spending time listening to stories of others can help you articulate what's important to you. Figure out what is important to you. This is critical. And that way, when you are interviewing your midwife, you can assess whether or not the two of you are a good fit for one another. I do have a questionnaire inside of my birth courses to help with this. Number 2, every birth is different. Isn't it incredible to realize just how individual each experience really is? Here's Leah, a midwife who has attended numerous births, and she is not immune to the fact that each labor is unknown before it happens. To enter our birthing experience with open hands and an open mind is a beautiful approach, especially if we've prepared ourselves well beforehand. And finally, I loved how Leah shared this. God gives you the strength you need when you need it. At one point, Leah wished she could just know how things were going to unfold, to know how much longer it would be before giving birth. And while she didn't get that, she did learn that the Lord is faithful to provide the strength you need when you need it. Is that message for you this week? I feel so strongly that there's someone out there who needs to hear this. I don't know what season you're in. It's probably not birth related at all. But something is going on in your life that feels insurmountable and you just want to know when it's going to be done. My friend, He loves you. I pray you feel the Lord wrapping you up in the warmest, most comforting hug right now. I pray you feel Him imbuing His strength upon you right in this moment. You are not alone. All right, I can't think of a better note to end on. That's all I've got for you for today. I'll see you back here next week. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Are you looking to extend the home birth support, encouragement, and education? Join us in our Facebook group, Happy Home Birth Podcast Community, and check us out on Instagram at Happy Home Birth Podcast.